The calculated risk, beyond job security. Introduction. Imagine a life meticulously choreographed, where each movement is deliberate, each choice scrutinized for its potential to disturb the established order. For many, this is the coveted ideal, the promise of a secure livelihood, a dependable income, a future laid out with predictable certainty. From our earliest years, we are conditioned to pursue this very stability, to secure a reputable, safe position and cling to it with tenacious resolve. It offers solace, a bulwark against a world that frequently feels adrift in chaos. This is the well-trodden path, signposted by societal expectations and conventional career wisdom. But what if this very aspiration, this unwavering pursuit of absolute job security, is not a shield, but a gilded cage? What if the bulwark we erect to evade the tides of change actually prevents us from learning to navigate the currents? The stark reality is that in our rapidly transforming world, the reliance on a solitary position for all security is rapidly dissolving into an illusion. Unforeseen forces, economic upheavals, technological advancements, industry metamorphoses possess the power to erode even the most seemingly unassailable posts. The insidious cost of prioritizing this perceived security is often stagnation, a litany of missed opportunities, and a life lived under the quiet dread of inevitable disruption. This book dares to dismantle the notion that security and growth are adversaries. Indeed, the relentless pursuit of absolute security can actively impede your progress. When a job feels incontrovertibly secure, it can act as a potent anesthetic. It dulls ambition, pacifies drive, and discourages profound engagement with one's work or the exploration of novel challenges. The ingrained routine, the pervasive comfort, the absence of immediate pressure can foster a passive acquiescence to one's circumstances. You cease to push, you cease to learn, you cease to evolve. This is not an exhortation to recklessness or a dismissal of prudence. It is an imperative to recognize that the specious sense of control afforded by a secure position can leave you utterly unprepared for the very transformations you sought to elude. True agency, genuine command, is forged by actively sculpting your future, not by passively awaiting its arrival. This is where the foundational concept of this book emerges: calculated risk-taking. This is not an endorsement of gambling or impulsive actions. It is the intentional embrace of challenges or decisions where the outcome remains uncertain, yet where the potential rewards are substantial, and where the potential downsides have been meticulously considered and managed. It necessitates diligent preparation, incisive analysis, and informed decision-making. It is about executing strategic maneuvers with a lucid objective. Crucially, it involves leveraging your present assets, your proficiencies, your erudition, even your current employment as a platform for further construction. You might, for instance, rigorously test a nascent concept through a supplementary project, thereby acquiring knowledge and validation without immediately imperiling your primary income stream. This approach facilitates experimentation, learning, and growth without resorting to a blind leap of faith. And at the very core of all calculated risk-taking resides discipline. More potent than any ephemeral mood or sudden surge of inspiration is the unwavering force of discipline. It is discipline that instills the fortitude to venture beyond your established comfort zone, and it is discipline that sustains your momentum when adversity strikes. To depend on fleeting moods is akin to constructing a dwelling upon shifting sands. It is destined to collapse. Discipline, conversely, is the bedrock. It is the unshakable commitment to your objectives, even in the absence of immediate motivation. Calculated risk-taking, invigorated by discipline, becomes the engine that propels genuine personal development and culminates in enduring financial prosperity. This book serves as your navigational chart for traversing the contemporary professional landscape, not by seeking an elusive job security, but by mastering the art of calculated risk-taking. We will investigate methods for identifying and pursuing scalable career trajectories, those imbued with the potential for exponential expansion rather than mere incremental ascent. You will discover how to strategically deploy your current employment as a launching pad for future endeavors, rather than solely as a safety net. We will delve into the profound potency of concentrated focus, elucidating why the designation of master of none can prove detrimental. You will unearth the pivotal role of a lucid vision and the intrinsic drive to realize it, including the power of establishing well-defined objectives. And throughout this exploration, we will consistently underscore that discipline is the indispensable foundation upon which all successful calculated risks are not only initiated but sustained. Are you prepared to transcend the illusion of security and embrace the formidable power of calculated risk to construct a future that is both profoundly fulfilling and remarkably prosperous? The path to authentic growth and financial liberation lies not in the avoidance of risk, but in its astute comprehension and masterful execution. Chapter 1. Understanding Job Security. 1. The illusion of absolute security. For decades, a comforting narrative of career security permeated our collective consciousness. We were schooled to seek out stable employment, to labor diligently, and to remain steadfast within its confines. The implicit promise was that unwavering loyalty and competent execution would yield a lifetime of assured stability. This vision presented itself as a robust bulwark, a secure harbor against the capricious tides of existence. Yet, a closer examination reveals that this notion of absolute job security is increasingly receding into the realm of fantasy, a wistful ideal rather than a tangible reality, a beautiful sentiment that no longer aligns with the world's evolving contours. Consider the occupational landscape of 50 years past. Many roles that were once commonplace have vanished entirely or transformed into unrecognizable specters. We once relied on blacksmiths for the sinews of transportation. Today, their successors are mechanics and engineers. The intricate dance of human operators at telephone switchboards, meticulously connecting calls, has been supplanted by the ephemeral touch of smartphones and the immediacy of global communication. This metamorphosis was not a testament to the inadequacy of those workers, but a consequence of an inexorable global evolution. The advent of novel technologies, the emergence of innovative methodologies, and the eventual obsolescence of even the most seemingly immutable practices marked this transition. The same forces are at play with unprecedented velocity. The pervasive influence of computing, the boundless reach of the Internet, and the burgeoning capabilities of intelligent machines are reshaping industries at a pace that defies precedent. What appears secure today may be profoundly altered by tomorrow. Corporations perpetually seek more efficient, rapid, and economical solutions, a relentless pursuit that inevitably leads to the transformation or dissolution of existing roles. This perpetual flux is not a transient anomaly, it is the established order of things. To cling to the anachronistic belief in a perpetually immutable position is akin to seeking refuge behind a meager pebble during a tempest. While it may offer a fleeting sense of protection, the storm rages unabated, poised to eventually engulf you. When our sole focus is maintaining a position out of a perceived sense of security, we often cease to cultivate new knowledge. We forego the exploration of enhanced methodologies and, crucially, neglect the pursuit of emergent opportunities. We succumb to complacency. This comfort, while momentarily gratifying, much like a warm embrace, ultimately enfeebles us. When confronted by disruptive technologies or a company's strategic pivot, we become the most vulnerable, lacking the requisite new competencies or alternative pathways. In our fervent avoidance of risk, we have inadvertently rendered ourselves fragile. This constitutes a distinct form of peril, the risk of obsolescence, of being outpaced by a world in perpetual motion. Even if your employment remains ostensibly intact, a more insidious threat to your financial well-being looms: inflation. Imagine an annual income of $50,000. This initially appears to be a respectable sum. Now envision the escalating cost of daily necessities: sustenance, shelter, fuel, attire. This phenomenon is termed inflation. Even if your remuneration remains static or experiences a marginal annual increment, it may fail to keep pace with the accelerating expenses of everyday life. Consequently, while your job may persist, the purchasing power of your earnings diminishes incrementally over time. An income that seemed adequate a few years prior may prove insufficient for a comfortable existence today. This gradual erosion of economic capacity is a tangible risk that many overlook when fixated solely on the prospect of employment. Genuine financial prosperity transcends mere income generation. It hinges on the capacity of your earnings to retain their value in a fluctuating economic milieu. This potent inclination towards comfort and the aversion to any form of risk can function as a potent analgesic and anesthetic for our latent ambition. It renders us impervious to the short-term discomforts that are invariably precursors to sustained growth. We may remain entrenched in roles that fail to ignite our passion, simply because they offer predictability. We may defer the acquisition of new skills, deterred by the requisite exertion. Our leisure time might be devoted not to the cultivation of nascent endeavors or the pursuit of cherished interests, but merely to the anesthetization of the mild dissatisfactions inherent in our daily routines. This is not a manifestation of indolence, but rather a response to the deeply ingrained human imperative to circumvent discomfort. However, by eschewing the minor tribulations of growth and challenge, we court the far more profound and enduring discomfort of regret and stagnation. The fundamental tenet of this discourse is the imperative to choose discipline over ephemeral inclinations, and this pervasive tendency to seek comfort frequently stems from allowing our moods the yearning for ease to dictate our actions, rather than adhering to a clear vision and the resolve to pursue it. What, then, are the tangible repercussions of clinging to what we perceive as security? The most significant risk is the cessation of personal growth. You may find yourself performing the same tasks day in and day out, and while this may engender a sense of safety, your proficiencies will not advance. You will acquire no new knowledge that could enhance your value or unlock new avenues. This is analogous to a plant deprived of adequate sunlight and sustenance. It may persist, but it will not flourish, nor will it bear fruit. Furthermore, you forfeit opportunities. Perhaps your organization is embarking on an exhilarating new project, one that entails a modicum of uncertainty. If your sole preoccupation is the stability of your current routine, you may not even be considered. And when unforeseen events transpire, a corporate merger, a leadership transition, or a sudden economic downturn, you will be the least prepared. You will have neglected to cultivate a network of contacts beyond your immediate sphere, failed to develop a diverse skill set, and eschewed the practice of adapting to novel circumstances. This is where the concept of calculated risk-taking emerges, a notion we shall explore with greater depth subsequently. Calculated risk-taking entails the judicious selection of endeavors with uncertain outcomes, but where the potential rewards are substantial, and where one has meticulously considered the potential pitfalls and devised strategies for their mitigation. It is not an endorsement of recklessness, but rather a testament to prudence and preparedness. Instead of seeking a role that purports to offer absolute security, a chimera calculated risk-taking advocates for the utilization of your current position as a springboard. It signifies continuous learning, personal development, and proactive preparation for the future, even when such undertakings involve a degree of uncertainty. It demands the discipline to remain focused on your objectives, rather than succumbing to the allure of immediate ease. Consider Sarah, who dedicated 15 years to a large insurance conglomerate. Her remuneration was substantial, her workspace comfortable, and her pension plan robust. She felt secure, yet she observed the company's sluggish adoption of emerging technologies, and her own nascent skills in digital marketing remained largely untapped and undeveloped. She witnessed younger colleagues, possessing more contemporary competencies, ascend the corporate ladder with greater alacrity. The security of her prolonged tenure rendered her increasingly peripheral in a rapidly evolving industry. She harbored a profound apprehension of departure, fearing the forfeiture of her pension and the familiarity of her established role. In essence, she was ensconced behind the protective bulwark of her perceived security. Then, an industry-wide seismic shift occurred. New online platforms began to offer insurance directly to consumers, circumventing traditional intermediaries and corporate structures. Sarah's company, a laggard in adaptation, commenced a decline in business. Eventually, layoffs became inevitable. Sarah, despite her years of dedicated service, found herself unceremoniously displaced. Her pension proved less substantial than anticipated, and her digital marketing acumen had become decidedly rusty. She was compelled to embark on a new trajectory from its nascent stages, accepting a less lucrative position in an unfamiliar sector, feeling years behind her contemporaries. Her pursuit of absolute security had, paradoxically, rendered her more vulnerable when the inevitable disruption materialized. Contrast Sarah's narrative with that of David. David, too, was employed within a traditional industry, but he perceived the writing on the wall far earlier. He recognized the inherent vulnerability of his sector to automation. Rather than passively executing his duties and hoping for the best, David began dedicating several hours each week to acquiring proficiency in coding and data analysis skills that were rapidly gaining prominence. He enrolled in online courses, meticulously constructed a personal website in his spare time, and even initiated a modest freelance venture assisting local businesses with their digital presence. His objective was not an immediate resignation. Rather, he leveraged his current employment as a stable foundation upon which to build new capabilities. This represented a form of calculated risk-taking. He invested his time and energy into cultivating skills that held the potential for substantial rewards, even if it entailed sacrificing leisure time and confronting the inherent uncertainty of mastering something new. When his company eventually underwent a reduction in force, David was not caught unawares. He possessed a portfolio of newly acquired skills and a burgeoning roster of freelance clients. He was adeptly able to transition to a new, more sought-after role within a technology-adjacent field, commanding a higher salary and possessing considerably greater future potential. He had not acted impulsively. He had meticulously analyzed the risks inherent in his industry, identified avenues for professional advancement, and strategically invested in his own development. He embraced the inherent uncertainty of learning and creation, understanding that this proactive methodology offered a far more enduring form of security than passive anticipation. The siren song of absolute security is a potent illusion, frequently amplified by our inherent inclination towards comfort and predictability. It whispers reassurances that remaining static is the safest course. Yet, history, economics, and the inexorable march of time present a contrary narrative. The world is a dynamic entity, and genuine resilience is not forged through the avoidance of change, but through diligent preparation for it. It is cultivated through the understanding that the risks of inaction, of stagnation, and of unpreparedness can far outweigh the perils of stepping forward with a well-defined plan and an unyielding commitment to learning. The bedrock of a truly secure and fulfilling career is not a static position, but an individual perpetually poised for adaptation, growth, and the opportune embrace of challenges, even when they are accompanied by a degree of uncertainty. This marks the initial step in comprehending why embracing calculated risk is not merely an option, but an indispensable prerequisite for forging a future that transcends the fading promise of conventional job security. 2. Risks of staying in comfort zones. The allure of a safe job, one where tasks are predictable, familiar, and the trajectory appears clear, resonates deeply. It offers the comforting illusion of an impenetrable bulwark against life's vicissitudes. We often pursue this perceived security with fervent dedication, believing it to be the paramount strategy for safeguarding ourselves and our futures. Yet, what if this very sanctuary, this ostensibly secure haven, is in fact the most perilous locale? What if remaining static, eschewing any whisper of disquiet or unpredictability, constitutes the most profound gamble of all? Consider this analogy. Picture yourself traversing a well-trodden path. It is smooth, effortless to navigate, and every convolution is intimately known. Its destination lies within sight, a tableau of predictable certainty. This, in essence, is your comfort zone. Now, visualize a short distance from this familiar route, a trail faintly discernible, winding its way into a sylvan expanse. It appears more arduous, perhaps tinged with shadows, and its ultimate contours remain veiled in uncertainty. Most individuals, when their focus is solely on security, will cling resolutely to the well-worn path, irrespective of its limitations. They rationalize this adherence as the epitome of prudence. However, herein lies a disquieting verity. That smooth, familiar path leads nowhere novel. It fosters no augmentation of strength, no expansion of knowledge, no unveiling of latent capabilities. Indeed, by steadfastly remaining, one progressively forfeits the wherewithal to confront the world beyond its confines. The world is in perpetual flux. New growths emerge, old structures decay, and the very topography undergoes transformation. Should one confine their journey solely to the familiar route, the requisite skills and adaptability to navigate these inevitable shifts will remain undeveloped. Vulnerability arises not from embracing risk, but from its deliberate omission. This mirage of safety acts as a potent anesthetic, dulling our awareness of the gradual erosion of our potential. In the embrace of comfort, the impetus for acquiring new knowledge dissipates. Why invest in mastering a new software suite when the current one suffices? Why undertake a project that stretches one's capabilities when existing responsibilities are readily managed? The comfort zone murmurs all is well. You are secure. Yet, this is a perilous whisper, for what is well today can readily metamorphose into obsolete tomorrow. Reflect upon the proficiencies you employ daily in your professional sphere. If your routines are immutable, your tools unchanged, and the problems you address perpetually similar, these skills languish like disused musculature. You may excel in your present capacity, but are you cultivating the competencies requisite for the careers of tomorrow, careers that may not yet even exist? By remaining ensconced within your comfort zone, you are not merely evading risk, you are actively permitting your most invaluable assets, your skills and your adaptability to degenerate. It is akin to possessing a high-performance vehicle, but confining its operation to brief excursions around the block. The engine never truly exerts itself and, over time, risks ceasing from disuse. This leads to a critical juncture. The perceived security of a comfort zone paradoxically amplifies one's susceptibility to protracted career disruption and financial precarity. Let us dissect this phenomenon. Firstly, the professional landscape is inherently dynamic. Industries evolve, technologies advance with relentless speed, and entire job categories can become vestigial. Consider the myriad occupations that flourished 50 years ago, but are now scarce or non-existent, and conversely, the profusion of roles today that were once unimaginable. If one finds solace in a position reliant on skills diminishing in relevance, their career is being constructed upon an unstable foundation. When that industry undergoes transformation or its underpinning technology is superseded, unpreparedness will be the inevitable consequence. The requisite skills for adaptation will be absent, rendering one akin to a mariner accustomed only to tranquil lakes, suddenly thrust into the tempestuous ocean without navigational expertise. The peril lies not in capsizing, but in utter helplessness when the waves crash. Secondly, this dearth of new skill acquisition precludes positioning for advancement. If one's current role fails to stimulate learning and improvement, significant salary increments or promotions are improbable. Modest, incremental adjustments may occur, but the exponential growth in earning potential derived from mastering novel, sought-after skills will be foregone. Consequently, income may stagnate while the cost of living relentlessly escalates. A sense of security may pervade one's current remuneration, yet with each passing period, that sum commands less purchasing power. Progress ceases, and in a world perpetually advancing, stasis is synonymous with regression. Furthermore, the comfort zone inherently curtails fulfillment. Genuine professional satisfaction often stems from surmounting challenges, acquiring new knowledge, and contributing meaningfully. When one consistently opts for the path of least resistance, these vital elements are forfeited. A job may be tolerable, but is it genuinely cherished? Does it invigorate? Or does it feel more akin to a burdensome obligation, endured solely for the respite of the weekend? The comfort zone can precipitate a gradual depletion of passion and purpose, culminating in a pervasive sense of unfulfillment and existential questioning. This is precisely where the concept of calculated risk-taking assumes paramount importance. Remaining within one's comfort zone represents the antithesis of calculated risk-taking. It is passive evasion. Calculated risk-taking, conversely, involves the deliberate immersion in uncertainty, albeit with a strategic framework. It entails an assessment of potential drawbacks and proactive preparation to achieve substantial rewards. Within a comfort zone, no such assessment occurs. There is merely inertia. No preparation is undertaken. There is merely an assumption of perpetual stasis. Let us examine a pertinent illustration. Sarah occupied the role of a data entry clerk for a decade. Her responsibilities were predictable, her hours regular, and her duties unequivocally defined. She experienced a profound sense of security. Her colleagues were amiable, the office environment congenial, and she was never confronted with formidable projects or demanding clientele. By all conventional metrics, she resided within her comfort zone. However, over that 10-year span, the field of data analysis underwent an explosive expansion. Novel software emerged that could automate many of Sarah's core functions, and organizations began to seek individuals capable not merely of data input, but of its interpretation, trend identification, and strategic recommendation. Sarah, meanwhile, had neglected to acquire proficiency in any new software. She had not explored data visualization tools nor grasped fundamental statistical analysis. While exceptionally competent in her existing role, her skills were progressively diminishing in market value. Subsequently, her employer initiated a system upgrade. The new software rendered her prior role largely obsolete. Rather than offering her a position necessitating new competencies, they presented her with a severance package. Sarah was utterly blindsided. She had believed herself secure. In her avoidance of the risk associated with acquiring new, challenging proficiencies, she had rendered herself extraordinarily vulnerable. She had effectively sheltered behind a rock for 10 years, only for that rock to crumble. Her associate, Mark, held a comparable position at a different firm. He too derived comfort from his role. However, his approach diverged. He perceived the ascendant trend in data analysis. In his evenings, he commenced enrollment in online courses, acquiring proficiency in new software and analytical methodologies. He volunteered for minor assignments at work that involved scrutinizing the data he entered, seeking to discern patterns. His immediate objective was not to depart from his employment, but to proactively cultivate new skills. He was actively engaging in calculated risk-taking. He embraced the risk of supplementary learning and exertion, mitigating the downside of potential late nights and mental fatigue in pursuit of the substantial reward of future career resilience and opportunity. When Mark's company also implemented a system upgrade, his circumstances were markedly different. He was offered a position as a junior data analyst. It represented a progression, entailed greater challenge, and commanded a significant salary increase. He had undertaken a calculated risk by investing in his own development, and this investment yielded dividends. Sarah, who had abstained from all risk, found herself confronting a far more substantial, unplanned risk: unemployment and the formidable undertaking of retraining from scratch at a juncture when she had anticipated a state of settled security. The comfort zone can also erode one's drive and vision. In the absence of external impetus, self-propulsion diminishes. The ambition to set ambitious objectives to envision a different future can wane. The status quo becomes accepted. One may voice grievances regarding their employment, yet lack the impetus to effect change. This passive disposition fosters a tendency to merely tolerate one's work, rather than actively shaping it into a source of genuine satisfaction. It is akin to a plant, content within its pot, yet deprived of the sunlight and nutrients essential for robust growth. It survives, but it does not flourish. The fundamental issue is that authentic security is not derived from the avoidance of challenges. It is cultivated through the development of the capacity to confront them. The skills acquired by venturing beyond one's comfort zone, problem-solving, critical thinking, adaptability, resilience are precisely those that confer security in an uncertain world. They are the instruments that enable navigation through change, the seizing of opportunities, and the construction of a career that is not merely stable but also dynamic and intrinsically rewarding. Remaining within one's comfort zone is analogous to seeking protection from the cold by enveloping oneself in a blanket. It offers temporary solace, but if one never ventures into the open air, the warmth of the sun and the invigorating embrace of a brisk wind will remain unknown. One will be sheltered, yet confined, and ultimately ill-prepared for the broader world. The illusion of safety is a seductive trap, but the true path to a secure and prosperous future lies not in the absence of risk, but in the courage and discernment to advance with calculated steps. It is an understanding that the greatest peril resides not in the unknown, but in the stagnation that ensues from never daring to explore it. The pertinent question then arises: how does one commence the transition from this comfortable, yet perilous state? How does one evolve from mere occupational existence to the active construction of a resilient and gratifying career? This necessitates a paradigm shift, a willingness to embrace precisely those elements that the comfort zone teaches us to shun. It requires an acknowledgement that the trajectory of growth is frequently marked by challenges, and that the rewards for navigating these obstacles far surpass any perceived safety derived from a mobility. This leads us directly to the power and imperative of calculated risk-taking as the genuine catalyst for personal development and enduring career resilience. 3. Breaking free from routine. The steady hum of a predictable workday can feel like a warm blanket, a comforting assurance that all is well. We often seek out jobs that offer this rhythm, this sense of knowing exactly what tomorrow will bring. It's a natural human desire for stability, a wish to build a life on solid ground. But what if that very solid ground, that unwavering routine, slowly begins to turn into quicksand, pulling us down into a state of quiet stagnation? Consider the concept of routine as a double-edged sword. On one side, it offers a clear path, a predictable set of tasks that require less mental energy. This can be a relief, especially after a period of intense change or uncertainty. It allows us to conserve our resources, to feel a sense of control. However, when this predictability becomes the only thing we rely on, when it's accepted without question, it can subtly disincentivize our growth. Our minds, much like muscles, need to be challenged to stay strong and adaptable. When a job's routine is so ingrained that it requires minimal thought, our critical thinking skills begin to soften. Our problem-solving abilities, honed by facing new puzzles, start to rust. We begin to avoid challenges, not out of fear of failure, but simply because they disrupt the comfortable flow of the day. This passive acceptance of routine means we are no longer actively shaping our careers. We are merely letting the routine shape us. This is where the subtle danger lies. The comfort of a stable job, the predictable paycheck, the familiar faces, they can all work together to create a powerful anesthetic effect. This isn't about being lazy. It's about a gradual numbing of our desire for more. After a long day of routine tasks, the allure of passive leisure activities becomes irresistible. We might watch television, scroll through social media, or engage in other low-effort entertainment. These activities, while enjoyable in moderation, can become a way to numb any lingering feelings of dissatisfaction or a quiet yearning for something more. The job provides the comfort, and the leisure time provides the escape from thinking too deeply about the job itself. This cycle masks the underlying truth that a life lived solely within predictable boundaries, without the push to learn or grow, can lead to a profound lack of fulfillment. We might feel secure, but are we truly thriving? The tangible consequences of allowing routine to dictate our professional lives are significant and often creep up on us. Over time, our drive, that inner engine that propels us forward, begins to sputter. The clarity of our long-term vision starts to blur. When every day is the same, the motivation to set ambitious goals or to strive for something beyond the immediate horizon fades. Why bother planning for a promotion or learning a new skill when the current setup is perfectly comfortable? The challenges that once excited us now seem like unwelcome disruptions. This gradual erosion of drive and vision doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow fade, a quiet dimming of our ambition, until one day we look around and realize we're not where we thought we'd be, and worse, we're not sure how we got there or how to get out. Many jobs that offer a degree of routine are often perceived as the ideal for security. They promise a steady income and a predictable work schedule, leaving us with what feels like ample free time. This free time is often seen as a reward for our steady work, a pleasant bonus of a secure position. However, this perspective misses a critical opportunity. This free time, instead of being just a passive reward, is a powerful resource waiting to be leveraged. It's the fertile ground where we can plant the seeds of our future success. Think about it. If your job provides a predictable schedule and doesn't demand every ounce of your energy, what are you doing with those extra hours? Are they simply filled with more passive comfort, further reinforcing the routine? Or are you actively using them to break free? This is where the concept of calculated risk-taking begins to weave its way into our daily lives, even within the confines of a seemingly secure job. Calculated risk-taking, as we understand it, is not about recklessness. It's about intentionally taking on challenges or making choices where the outcome isn't guaranteed, but where the potential rewards are significant. And crucially, the potential downsides have been carefully thought through and managed. In the context of breaking free from routine, this means using that free time not just to relax, but to strategically invest in yourself. How can you do this? It might mean dedicating a few hours each week to learning a new skill through online courses. Perhaps it involves starting a small side project that explores an interest outside your main job. This side project could be anything: building a simple website, writing a blog, developing a small app, or even offering a freelance service in an area you're passionate about. These aren't necessarily grand ventures aimed at immediate financial gain. They are tests, experiments in calculated risk-taking. They allow you to explore new territories, develop new abilities, and see what resonates with you, all while maintaining the safety net of your current employment. The beauty of these smaller, calculated risks is that they don't demand you abandon everything. They are manageable steps. You're not jumping off a cliff. You're building a bridge plank by plank. Each new skill learned, each small project completed, adds to your resilience and your adaptability. It expands your capabilities beyond the narrow confines of your daily routine. This proactive use of your free time transforms it from a passive reward into an active tool for growth. It's about shifting your mindset from merely enduring your job to actively using it as a springboard for something more. The anesthetic effect of comfort works by dulling our senses to opportunities. When we are content with the predictable, we stop looking for the exceptional. We stop asking, what else is possible? The routine becomes a comfortable cage, and we forget that the door is often unlocked. The analytical questions we must ask ourselves are crucial here. How does the comfort of a predictable routine, even in a secure job, subtly disincentivize personal growth and the development of new marketable skills? It does so by reducing the perceived need for growth. When your basic needs are met and your daily tasks are manageable, the urgency to acquire new skills or adapt to changing environments diminishes. The security itself becomes the reason not to evolve. You might think, why learn coding if my current job doesn't require it? But the world of work is constantly shifting. What is not required today might be essential tomorrow. By not developing new skills, you are unknowingly making yourself more vulnerable in the long run, not more secure. In what specific ways can the anesthetic effect of post-work leisure and job stability prevent individuals from recognizing and acting upon opportunities for advancement or change? The anesthetic effect dulls our awareness. When we spend our evenings and weekends passively consuming entertainment, our minds are not actively engaged in problem-solving or forward-thinking. We might scroll past an article about a new industry trend or a networking event without truly absorbing its significance. The comfort of our current situation makes us less likely to question it. We might feel a vague sense of unease, a whisper of "is this all there is?" But the anesthetic effect of our comfortable routine and leisure activities quickly numbs that feeling. We then miss the subtle signals that indicate a need for change or the exciting possibilities that lie just beyond our current horizon. We might see a colleague take a leap into a new venture and think, wow, that was brave, without realizing that the seeds of that bravery were sown long before, through consistent effort and calculated risks taken during their own free time. What are the tangible consequences of allowing routine to dictate one's professional life on their long-term career trajectory and overall sense of fulfillment? The most tangible consequence is stagnation. Your career trajectory flattens. Instead of climbing a ladder of increasing responsibility and reward, you find yourself on a plateau. This isn't just about income, it's about intellectual and personal growth. Without new challenges, your skills become outdated, making you less competitive in the job market. This can lead to a feeling of being trapped, a loss of agency. And the impact on fulfillment? It's profound. When your work is merely a series of predictable tasks, it can feel devoid of meaning. The sense of accomplishment that comes from overcoming a difficult challenge or learning something new is missing. Over years, this can lead to burnout, cynicism, and a deep-seated feeling that you're just going through the motions. Breaking free from routine isn't about chaos. It's about conscious choice. It's about recognizing that the illusion of absolute security is often built on a foundation of passive comfort, which can, in turn, erode our drive and limit our potential. The free time that a predictable job offers is not just a perk, it's a powerful opportunity. It is the space where we can engage in calculated risk-taking, exploring new skills and interests without jeopardizing our current stability. By actively using this time to learn, experiment, and build, we begin to break the chains of monotony and create a more dynamic, resilient, and ultimately, more fulfilling career path. This shift in perspective is the first, vital step beyond the comforting, yet limiting, embrace of job security. Chapter 2. Embracing calculated risks. 1. The art of taking smart risks. The world often presents risk as a specter lurking in the periphery, an entity to be shunned with utmost vigilance. We are conditioned to tread cautiously, to cling to familiar terrain, to fortify our positions as if they were the last bastions against an encroaching tempest. Yet, this pervasive dread of risk can transmute into an insidious confinement, trapping us in a liminal existence of muted aspirations where latent potential lies fallow and dreams languish in disuse. The verity is that risk is not a monolithic, terrifying apparition. It is, rather, akin to an expansive panorama, dotted with perilous terrains and regions that beckon with extraordinary recompense for the intrepid explorer. The mastery of judicious risk-taking lies in navigating this intricate topography, discerning the precipice of a blind plunge from the well-charted ascent into promising territory. Consider this analogy: risk is not solely the embrace of peril. It is the engagement with circumstances where the ultimate outcome remains veiled. A profound chasm separates the act of leaping from a precipice without foreknowledge of the depths below from the deliberate act of scouting a descent down a steep incline, meticulously assessing for loose scree and planning each footfall. One is the hallmark of recklessness, the other, a testament to intelligent deliberation. The smart risk, the catalyst for advancement and genuine triumph that transcends the ephemeral solace of job security, resides in this nuanced intermediate space. It is the nexus where the potential for the truly monumental is palpable, yet the specter of catastrophic failure is assiduously contained. This is the crucible where the doctrine of calculated risk-taking reveals its profound efficacy. It is not an endorsement of capricious gambits or impulsive actions. Rather, it is the intentional immersion into scenarios of uncertain denouement, but only after a thorough and rigorous due diligence has been performed. The potential rewards, whether manifesting as a more advantageous career trajectory, enhanced financial prosperity, or a more profound sense of personal fulfillment, are substantial. Crucially, however, one has meticulously dissected the potential pitfalls and devised strategies for their remediation. This stands in stark opposition to a passive reliance on serendipity. It is the proactive preparation for auspicious outcomes, coupled with a clear-eyed acknowledgement and strategic planning for adverse eventualities. Thus, how does one cultivate the artistry of these judicious risks? The genesis of this endeavor lies in the construction of an unassailable foundation. This bedrock is constituted by three indispensable pillars: research, evaluation, and mitigation. Foremost, research. Before the mere contemplation of any strategic maneuver, one must amass a comprehensive repository of information. If the compass points towards a novel professional avenue, what are the prevailing currents within that domain? Are there requisite proficiencies to be acquired? Who were the individuals already achieving eminence in that sphere, and what were the trajectories they traversed? If the inclination is to embark upon a subsidiary enterprise with the potential for exponential growth, who constitutes the prospective clientele? What are their unmet needs? What are the strategic postures of rivals? This is not a quest for an infallible guarantee, it is an endeavor to apprehend the intricate dynamics of the arena. It is akin to a culinary artist sampling each ingredient before finalizing a recipe. The depth of one's understanding directly correlates with the perspicacity of one's choices. Following this, we arrive at evaluation. This is the juncture at which the potential advantages are meticulously weighed against the potential detriments. What constitutes the most auspicious outcome? Envision the successful realization of this risk. What form does it assume? Does it herald a significant remuneration increase? An opportunity to assume leadership of a team? The acquisition of a valuable new skill that unlocks future possibilities? Now, consider the most unfavorable outcome. What if the endeavor deviates from its intended course? This might entail a diminution of capital, a substantial investment of time yielding no immediate dividends, or even a temporary professional impediment. To facilitate this evaluative process, contemplate a rudimentary risk-reward calculus. For each unit of risk under consideration, what is the commensurate potential reward? If the prospective reward is tenfold the magnitude of the risk, this presents a vastly different proposition than if the reward marginally exceeds the risk. The objective is not the eradication of risk and impossibility in any pursuit of consequence. Rather, it is the identification of circumstances where the potential rewards are so compelling and the risks so amenable to management that the decision becomes unequivocally clear. This leads us to the third pillar, mitigation. This is where one assumes the mantle of an architect of contingency plans. Once the potential vulnerabilities have been identified, the task becomes one of devising strategies to attenuate their impact. If the apprehension centers on financial attrition in a nascent venture, can the undertaking be initiated on a modest scale? Can the concept be initially validated with a select cohort before a broader deployment? If a career transition necessitates a temporary reduction in income, can an emergency fund be established to defray expenditures during the interim period? Is it feasible to assume a part-time role while concurrently cultivating the new career path? Mitigation is the art of constructing safety nets, formulating fallback strategies, and diminishing the repercussions should outcomes fall short of ideal expectations. It is the distinction between a precipitous fall and the presence of a deployed parachute. Many individuals perceive their current employment as a penal institution, a locus of entrapment dictated by the imperative of security. However, I implore you to reframe your perception of your present professional engagement. Instead of an incarcerating cell, visualize it as a launchpad. Your vocation can serve as a potent instrument for the execution of calculated risks. It furnishes a consistent income stream, which can act as your financial bulwark. It grants access to a network of individuals from whom valuable insights can be gleaned or with whom collaborative endeavors can be forged. You acquire invaluable experience and competencies that can be seamlessly integrated into novel undertakings. On occasion, your current role may even provide a platform for the empirical testing of an idea. For instance, if a nascent technology piques your interest, you might propose a modest project within your existing organization to master it, thereby accumulating expertise without incurring personal financial exposure. Your job can function as the stable ground from which you initiate your strategic ascents. Consider Sarah, an administrative assistant in marketing who harbored a fervent aspiration to establish her own online enterprise specializing in handcrafted artisanal goods. She was paralyzed by the fear of forfeiting her dependable remuneration and the attendant benefits her position afforded. For an extended period, her actions were confined to contemplation. Subsequently, she began to systematically apply the tenets of judicious risk-taking. Her evenings were dedicated to researching the artisanal marketplace, identifying popular commodities and discerning potential consumer demographics. She meticulously evaluated the inherent risks. The primary detriments comprised the financial outlay for materials and the temporal investment. The potential reward was the realization of a business aligned with her passions and the generation of a substantial income. She then concentrated on mitigation strategies. She opted for a phased commencement, investing a modest sum in raw materials. She initiated sales within her immediate circle of friends and family to solicit feedback, eschewing an immediate, large-scale advertising campaign. Furthermore, she established a personal covenant. Should her enterprise fail to exhibit promising traction within a 6-month timeframe, she would revert to her marketing role, fortified by the invaluable experience acquired. Her employment provided the requisite security to embark upon that initial, calculated step. She did not abandon her post precipitously. Instead, she leveraged its stability to cultivate a new venture concurrently. Within a year, her business flourished, enabling her to transition from her assistant role, not from a position of desperation, but from a vantage point of strength and validated success. Then there is Mark. Mark was a software engineer employed by a large corporate entity. He occupied a position of comfort, and his role felt secure. He became aware of a nascent, innovative technology startup actively seeking engineers possessing his specialized skill set. The startup offered a remuneration lower than his current compensation, but in exchange, it provided equity options, signifying a proprietary stake in the company. The majority of his colleagues dismissed the opportunity as excessively perilous. Why relinquish a guaranteed position? They queried. Mark, however, perceived the situation through a different lens. He dedicated weeks to scrutinizing the startup's founders, their strategic blueprint, and the target market they aimed to penetrate. He meticulously assessed the risks. The startup could falter, resulting in the forfeiture of his temporal investment and potentially his diminished salary. Yet, he also recognized the immense potential reward. Should the startup achieve success, his equity options could translate into substantial wealth. He mitigated his risk by negotiating a severance package with his incumbent employer, ensuring a financial buffer for several months, should the startup not materialize as anticipated. He also ensured his personal expenditures were minimized, thereby alleviating immediate pressure to generate a high salary. Mark embraced the calculated risk. The startup encountered formidable challenges, but Mark's expertise and dedication, coupled with his methodical approach, were instrumental in surmounting these obstacles. Years later, the startup transitioned to a publicly traded entity, and Mark's equity options rendered him financially independent. His erstwhile position, which many perceived as a secure confinement, served as his launchpad to unparalleled financial liberation. These narratives underscore a fundamental principle. Intuition plays a role, but it is an intuition honed by data and empirical evidence. That visceral sensation when an opportunity feels auspicious? It is frequently your subconscious processing the totality of the information you have assimilated. It is the recognition of established patterns, the subtle indicators you have discerned. Nevertheless, one must never rely solely on this innate faculty. Always endeavor to substantiate it with concrete analysis. If your intuition signals that a new venture is poised for success, interrogate the underlying rationale. What specific data corroborates this sentiment? What are the numerical indicators suggesting? Your intuition may serve as a guiding force towards the optimal path, but your calculations will ensure its secure traversal. Therefore, when confronted with a decision, pose this question to yourself. What is the specific downside that instills the greatest apprehension, and what concrete actions can be implemented immediately to diminish the probability or impact of that particular downside? Refrain from a generalized declaration of "I fear failure." Define what constitutes failure. Does it manifest as financial loss? The squandering of valuable time? Reputational damage? Once the precise nature of the fear is elucidated, the process of devising strategies to avert or minimize it can commence. If the concern is financial, can the investment be initiated on a smaller scale? If the worry is the unproductive expenditure of time, Can clear benchmarks and deadlines be established for your project? Furthermore, do not neglect to extend your vision beyond the immediate horizon. Inquire of yourself, beyond the immediate fiscal gain or deficit, what are the long-term opportunities for personal development, skill acquisition, or network expansion that this calculated risk presents? How do these intangible benefits weigh against the tangible risks? Occasionally, the most profound rewards are not quantifiable in monetary terms. Acquiring a new proficiency, cultivating self-assurance, expanding one's professional circle, or simply proving to oneself the capacity to surmount challenges, these are invaluable advantages that can lay the groundwork for future triumphs, even if the initial outcome does not constitute an unqualified success. The embrace of the art of judicious risk-taking necessitates a paradigm shift from the avoidance of peril to the strategic pursuit of opportunity. It requires an understanding that genuine advancement and profound fulfillment are seldom attained within the confines of absolute security. They emerge when we muster the courage to venture forth, equipped with knowledge, a lucid strategy, and the fortitude to navigate inherent uncertainties. Having elucidated the principles governing the execution of these prudent risks, we must now direct our attention to the loci where such risks are most likely to yield the most significant returns. This naturally propels us towards an examination of the fertile grounds for growth and innovation, which brings us to the pivotal concept of scalable pathways for impact. 2. Personal growth through challenges. The quiet hum of routine, a deceptively gentle lullaby, often seduces us into seeking the steady, the predictable, the job that promises a comforting anchor of security. We meticulously construct our lives around this perceived safety net, believing that navigating the placid waters of employment without a single ripple is the paramount virtue. Yet, this relentless pursuit of absolute security can paradoxically transmute into a gilded cage, arresting our development. The very haven we strive for safety can ultimately render us more vulnerable, less equipped for life's inevitable tempests. True growth, the kind that cultivates enduring capability and unfurls pathways to profound fulfillment, does not blossom in the sterile confines of perpetual ease. It is forged in the crucible of challenge. Consider this: when have you truly learned the most? Was it during those languid days when tasks flowed effortlessly, completed with a mere flick of the wrist? Or was it when confronted by an seemingly insurmountable problem, a project that stretched beyond your current grasp, or a situation shrouded in profound uncertainty? These are the moments, the ones that might have initially sent a tremor of apprehension through you, that genuinely expand your capabilities. Comfort zones, much like perfectly fitted shoes, feel pleasant but are inadequate for the rigmarole of a marathon. To truly ascend, to become more robust and adaptable, one must shed those familiar constraints and confront the terrain that demands more. Challenges, in their essence, are our most potent skill accelerators. When presented with a task just beyond our present reach, the mind is not afforded the luxury of idleness. It must engage. We are compelled to delve into research, to solicit counsel, to experiment, and to unearth solutions we never knew we possessed. This is not an endorsement of recklessness, but rather an invitation to step into arenas where the potential reward new knowledge, a mastered skill, a resolved dilemma is substantial, and where measures have been taken to mitigate inherent risks. Imagine a software developer content within their familiar coding language. They might be offered the chance to spearhead a groundbreaking project utilizing a novel, intricate language. The path of least resistance would be to demur, citing their existing expertise. However, the path of growth beckons them to embrace this very challenge. They might dedicate extra hours to study, seek guidance from seasoned mentors, and even construct rudimentary prototypes in their own time. This is calculated risk-taking in its purest form. The initial exertion may be taxing, perhaps even tinged with stress, but the resultant expansion of their skill set renders them immeasurably more valuable and adaptable in the long run. This is how one transcends the limitations of passive comfort and constructs a truly scalable career. This very process of confronting and surmounting difficulties is also the architect of resilience, that indispensable quality enabling us to rebound from adversity. Resilience is not an innate endowment, but a muscle strengthened through consistent exertion. Each setback, a project that veers off course, a presentation that falters, a discord with a colleague, and our subsequent ability to rise, glean wisdom, and press onward, fortifies our resilience. It is the psychological and emotional equivalent of weightlifting. The more we test our mettle, the more adept we become at weathering future strains. Consider Sarah, who had spent a decade in a stable administrative capacity. Her role was predictable, her duties familiar. She felt secure, yet increasingly uninspired. Then, her company underwent a seismic organizational restructuring, and her department was reimagined. Instead of being reassigned to a familiar, predictable role, she was tasked with leading a small team charged with implementing a complex new digital system. This thrust her far beyond her comfort zone. She possessed no prior experience in managing a project of such magnitude, nor in navigating such technical intricacies. The expedient choice would have been to articulate her limitations and hope for a less demanding assignment. Yet, something within Sarah shifted. She perceived this not as a threat, but as a nascent opportunity. She dedicated her evenings and weekends to mastering project management software and the technical underpinnings of the new system. She actively solicited feedback from her team and from IT specialists, even when it meant admitting her lack of understanding. There were moments of intense pressure, of gnawing doubt, of feeling utterly overwhelmed. But with each hurdle cleared, with each problem unraveled, a profound sense of competence began to bloom. When the project was successfully deployed, it transcended mere professional accomplishment. It was a monumental personal triumph. Sarah had not only acquired new proficiencies, but had unearthed a reservoir of resilience she had never known existed. She came to realize that the security she had so assiduously guarded had, in fact, rendered her brittle, ill-prepared for the very transformations that were inevitably to occur. By embracing the challenge, she had forged a robust capability that offered a far more authentic and enduring form of security. The siren song of safety is potent, often masquerading as prudence. We persuade ourselves that risk aversion is the surest path to a stable future. However, this avoidance can precipitate a perilous atrophy of our faculties. When we consistently opt for the path of least resistance, we become less adaptable, less innovative, and ultimately, more susceptible to the unforeseen. The professional landscape is in perpetual flux. Companies merge, technologies evolve, and market demands shift. The individual who has spent years honing a narrow skill set within a comfortable niche may find themselves suddenly obsolete when their organization or industry undergoes a significant metamorphosis. Their perceived security evaporates, leaving them exposed. Conversely, the individual who actively seeks out challenges, who volunteers for arduous projects, who embraces the learning curve of new endeavors, even at the risk of missteps, cultivates a distinct form of security. This is the security of capability. They are developing a broad spectrum of skills, a deep wellspring of problem-solving acumen, and a demonstrated capacity for adaptation. They become more valuable, more versatile, and more resilient. This is not an entreaty to court gratuitous danger, but an understanding that growth necessitates pushing boundaries. It is a recognition that the true peril lies not in venturing into the unknown, but in remaining stagnant, in allowing one's skills and confidence to languish from disuse. The individual who tackles a demanding assignment, learns from the inevitable stumbles, and emerges more competent is not merely advancing their career, they are constructing a personal bulwark of adaptability. Furthermore, successfully navigating challenges fundamentally reshapes our self-perception and our understanding of our potential. When you achieve something that initially seemed beyond your reach, it recalibrates your internal compass. You begin to see yourself not as someone confined by present circumstances, but as an individual capable of growth, of learning, and of surmounting obstacles. This expanded self-perception is the fertile ground upon which ambitious aspirations are built. It fosters a belief in your own agency, the profound understanding that you possess the power to shape your destiny. This is paramount for establishing and pursuing scalable career trajectories. If you believe your capabilities are limited to what you have always done, your goals will inevitably reflect that constraint. But if you have experienced the exhilaration of mastering a new skill or resolving a complex problem, you will be more inclined to aim higher, to envision a future that is not merely comfortable, but truly extraordinary. The apprehension of challenge, often cloaked as a desire for security, actively impedes the very growth and adaptability that individuals believe security affords. When we recoil from arduous tasks, we implicitly declare our inadequacy to manage them. This self-limiting conviction morphs into a self-fulfilling prophecy. We forfeit opportunities to learn, to cultivate new skills, and to demonstrate to ourselves and others our true potential. The safe job may provide a steady income, but it can also stifle ambition and lead to a gradual erosion of self-assurance. The tangible benefits derived from conquering a specific professional challenge, mastering new software, leading a cross-functional team, successfully navigating a crisis directly, contribute to building a more scalable career path. These are not abstract accomplishments. They are concrete augmentations to your professional arsenal, rendering you a more versatile and sought-after asset. In what ways does the active pursuit or acceptance of difficult tasks, as opposed to their avoidance, cultivate the discipline and focus that this book champions as superior to fleeting moods or passive comfort? The answer lies in the intentionality it demands. When you choose to embrace a challenge, you make a deliberate decision to invest your time and energy in a manner that extends beyond your immediate comfort. This requires discipline, the unwavering commitment to see the task through, even when it becomes arduous or when initial enthusiasm wanes. It also necessitates focus. To surmount a significant challenge, one must concentrate their efforts, prioritize tasks, and resist distractions. This is the antithesis of passively reacting to one's environment or being swayed by transient emotions. By actively engaging with challenges, you train your mind to be more disciplined and focused, qualities indispensable for achieving any substantial objective, whether it be building an enterprise, mastering a new discipline, or attaining financial independence. Ultimately, the trajectory of personal growth is charted through challenges. It is in confronting the difficult, the uncertain, and the demanding that we unearth our true fortitude, expand our capabilities, and cultivate the resilience that will serve us throughout our lives. The quest for absolute security can become a comfortable snare, leading to stagnation and vulnerability. True security, the kind that fosters both prosperity and fulfillment, is constructed through the deliberate and strategic embrace of calculated risks and the challenges they invariably present. By recalibrating our perspective, viewing obstacles not as threats but as opportunities for advancement, we unlock our latent potential and transition from the illusion of safety toward a future of genuine achievement and enduring capability. This understanding naturally guides us toward exploring how we can strategically identify and engage with these growth-inducing challenges, which is the very essence of calculated risk-taking in action. 3. Discipline over mood swings. We often tell ourselves we'll commence that vital project, embark on that daring career transition, or acquire that new competency when we feel inclined. We await a flicker of inspiration, a surge of vitality, or a moment when celestial alignment seem opportune. This is the beguiling allure of deferring action until the opportune mood descends, a snare that ensnares legions, tethering them to the familiar and inhibiting their passage into the domain of measured ventures. The verity is, awaiting an optimal emotional state to act is akin to awaiting a phantom conveyance. You will stand vigil at the terminus, observing opportunities recede into the distance. Authentic advancement, particularly in the pursuit of profound growth and the embrace of calculated risks, is not propelled by ephemeral sentiments. It is meticulously constructed, brick by arduous brick, upon the bedrock of discipline. Discipline is not an imposition, it is a formidable instrument. It is the conscious, deliberate election to perform what is incumbent, irrespective of one's prevailing emotional disposition. It represents the internal covenant that impels one to engage, to expend effort, and to persist, even when the undertaking appears monotonous, the path arduous, or the outcome indeterminate. Conceive of it as the propellant that powers your aspirations. Inspiration may be the initial ignition, but discipline is the unwavering luminescence that sustains the conflagration, transforming your ambitions into palpable realizations. Absent it, even the most luminous concepts and the most compelling prospects will lie dormant, awaiting a sentiment that may never materialize. Consider the solace that can pervade when our professional existence feels predictable, even if uninspiring. This comfort can evolve into a form of anesthetic, dulling the senses to the tedium and the unrealized potential. We acquiesce to the routine because it offers security, and the prospect of disrupting it feels overwhelmingly daunting. Analogously, permitting our disposition to dictate our conduct serves as an anesthetic to the discomfort intrinsically linked with growth and risk-taking. Exceeding your present limitations, acquiring knowledge that feels taxing, or venturing into an uncharted opportunity, these endeavors are not invariably agreeable in the moment. They necessitate exertion, can be frustrating, and frequently involve confronting our own vulnerabilities. Discipline is the faculty that empowers us to surmount that discomfort, to engage with the challenging facets of calculated risk-taking, and to emerge on the other side fortified and more adept. It is the recognition that the transient discomfort of effort represents a far superior investment than the enduring ache of regret. The pivotal realization here is that discipline does not entail subjecting oneself to arduous extremes. It is about forging sustainable habits and routines that underpin your objectives. When you institute consistent practices, you tap into a potent force that renders progress nearly automatic. Reflect upon the act of brushing your teeth. You do not await the feeling to brush your teeth, you simply perform it because it has become a habit. You have established a routine around it. The same principle applies to the pursuit of calculated risks. If your aim is to launch a supplementary enterprise, discipline might manifest as dedicating an hour each evening post-dinner to its advancement, irrespective of whether you feel invigorated or fatigued. It could entail devoting your Saturday mornings to research and strategic planning. By integrating these actions into your weekly cadence, you diminish the perpetual need to summon sheer willpower. The habit itself propels you forward, even on days when your motivation is but a whisper. This is the mechanism by which ambitious dreams are transmuted into consistent action. The concept of kana, a Japanese term encompassing mood, feeling, or disposition, stands as a formidable adversary to progress. Our kana can fluctuate erratically, drawing us in divergent directions. In one instant, we may feel ambitious and prepared to conquer the world. In the next, we may feel fatigued, apathetic, or even slightly apprehensive. If we permit our actions to be governed by this shifting kana, we will achieve nothing of consequence. Discipline serves as the antidote. It necessitates a deliberate recalibration of our mindset, transitioning from a passive observer of our emotions to the active architect of our conduct. It means acknowledging that our feelings are transient, akin to clouds drifting across the sky, while our commitment to our objectives must remain immutable like the sun behind them. This conscious override is the very essence of disciplined action. Thus, how can an individual actively cultivate and fortify their discipline, particularly when confronted with tasks that are inherently unappealing, yet crucial for a calculated risk? It commences with incremental, manageable steps. Eschew the impulse to overhaul your entire existence overnight. Select a single domain where you aspire to cultivate discipline. Perhaps it is awakening 30 minutes earlier to dedicate to your ancillary project, or committing to reading one chapter of a challenging tome daily. The cornerstone is consistency. Even if you achieve but a minor triumph each day, the cumulative impact over weeks and months is profound. Celebrate these small victories. Acknowledge your progress. This positive reinforcement fosters momentum and renders the undertaking less formidable. Another efficacious strategy is to render your intentions public, or at least subject them to external accountability. Impart your objectives to a trusted confidant, family member, or mentor. The knowledge that another individual is cognizant of your commitment can serve as a potent motivator. You might even contemplate forming an accountability partnership, wherein you regularly apprise each other of your advancements. This external impetus can provide the precise impetus required to propel you forward when your internal drive falters. Furthermore, comprehending the psychological mechanisms that render us susceptible to awaiting moods is paramount to consciously overriding them. Our brains are intrinsically programmed for efficiency and comfort. Traversing the path of least resistance, which frequently entails succumbing to our present sentiments, feels more facile in the short term. This is driven by the brain's reward system, which seeks immediate gratification. When confronted with an arduous task, our brain may signal discomfort, and we instinctively endeavor to avert that discomfort by engaging in more pleasurable pursuits, such as perusing social media or watching television. To counteract this, you must consciously reframe the task. Instead of fixating on the difficulty, concentrate on the long-term benefits. Remind yourself why you are pursuing this calculated risk. What is the ultimate reward? What will this achievement unlock for you? Connecting with that deeper purpose can furnish the requisite fuel to surmount the immediate discomfort. Visualization can also serve as a potent instrument. Dedicate a few moments each day to envisioning yourself successfully completing the challenging task or realizing the outcome of your calculated risk. Imagine the sensation of accomplishment, the pride, and the positive ramifications it will exert upon your life. This mental rehearsal can assist in forging a positive association with the requisite effort, transforming it from a chore into a stepping stone toward success. It is also imperative to acknowledge that discipline does not equate to robotic adherence. It is about embracing our humanity and making deliberate choices. There will be days when you simply cannot muster the energy for an extended work session. On such days, the disciplined approach might be to engage for a mere 15 minutes. The objective is to sustain the habit, not to achieve peak performance on every occasion. The crucial aspect is to prevent a less-than-perfect day from derailing your entire trajectory. This is where the human touch of likable imperfection comes into play. It is not about flawless execution, but about consistent endeavor and resilience. When we discourse upon calculated risk-taking, we are not advocating for recklessness. We are referring to intentional choices with indeterminate outcomes, wherein the potential rewards are substantial and the potential drawbacks have been meticulously assessed and mitigated. This necessitates analysis, planning, and frequently, the testing of hypotheses before full commitment. The discipline we have expounded upon is the engine that empowers us to undertake this analysis, to perform the planning, and to execute the tests. Absent discipline, the most meticulously crafted plans remain precisely that, mere plans. Consider the narrative of Alara, a graphic designer who felt stagnant in her profession. She possessed proficiency in her craft, but the work was repetitive, and she yearned for greater creative latitude and the potential for enhanced remuneration. She conceived of a specialized online platform designed to connect independent artists with small enterprises requiring bespoke illustrations. It represented a calculated risk. She would need to invest her evenings and weekends in developing the platform, marketing it, and managing client relationships, all while maintaining her full-time employment. The potential reward was the establishment of her own thriving enterprise and the attainment of the creative control she so desired. The potential downside was the possibility that it might not gain traction, and she would have sacrificed precious leisure time, with no commensurate return. Initially, Alara found herself awaiting inspiration. She would settle at her laptop, intending to work on her platform, only for her mind to wander to her friends' activities on social media, or she would feel excessively fatigued from her day job. She would rationalize, "I'll do it tomorrow when I have more energy." This pattern persisted for weeks. She was a passenger to her kana, her disposition. Then, Alara resolved to implement discipline. She did not await inspiration. She set a timer for 1 hour every weekday evening, immediately after dinner. During that hour, she would dedicate her efforts exclusively to her platform. No social media, no distractions. On some evenings, she felt invigorated and made substantial progress. On others, she felt depleted and could only manage to respond to a few emails or conduct some light research. But she invariably completed her hour. She also committed to dedicating 3 hours every Saturday morning to the project. This consistent, disciplined effort, even when it felt like a chore, began to yield tangible results. She developed a functional website, onboarded a few artists, and commenced outreach to prospective clients. It was not glamorous, and there were numerous moments of doubt, but her discipline propelled her forward. She was not awaiting the feeling of being an entrepreneur, she was acting as one, day by day, hour by hour. Her calculated risk was systematically being constructed through sheer, unwavering discipline. The transformative power of habit is evident here. Ilara's disciplined hour evolved into a habit. It was no longer a battle of wills each evening. It was simply what she did. This liberated cognitive resources that would have otherwise been consumed by wrestling with her own resistance. The initial investment in cultivating this habit yielded dividends in sustained action, enabling her to navigate the uncertainties of her calculated risk with a steady hand. The psychological mechanisms at play in Ilara's initial struggle are commonplace. Her brain sought immediate comfort, offering distractions that provided a swift dopamine release, rather than the deferred gratification of her ambitious project. By consciously electing to override these impulses and focus on the long-term vision, the creative freedom, the potential for increased income, the satisfaction of building something of her own, she began to retrain her brain. She learned to associate the effort with the eventual reward, rendering the disciplined action less like a sacrifice and more like a strategic investment. The subsequent logical progression in this journey is to ensure that this disciplined effort is not expended on pursuits that offer limited long-term potential. While discipline serves as the engine, we must also direct it judiciously. This implies focusing on choices that offer leverage and growth, leading us to the critical concept of scalable career paths. 4. The power of focused vision. The world, a symphony of potential, unfurls before us as an boundless ocean of paths. Yet, many find themselves adrift, ensnared by currents they cannot fathom, or worse, paralyzed by the chilling specter of the unknown. This profound disorientation often emanates from a singular, fundamental deficit, the absence of a lucid vision. We speak of embracing risk, of venturing beyond our accustomed boundaries, but without and d-stroke letter 1 ECBNH letter 1B0 letter 1 EDBNG, without knowing where we aspire to journey, any risks becoming a plunge into the void. It is here that a focused vision transcends mere utility, becoming an absolute imperative. It is the lodestar guiding our voyage, the beacon illuminating the distant shore, transforming actions that might otherwise be reckless into deliberate, strategic maneuvers. Consider the pervasive pitfall of attempting to grasp too much too soon. We are drawn to a constellation of glittering prospects, a dozen potential side hustles or career evolutions, and we pursue them all with a diffused, half-hearted ardor. This is the genesis of the master of none malady. We dabble, we skim the surface, but we never plumb the depths necessary to forge genuine expertise or to birth something of enduring significance. Without a crystalline vision of our ultimate objective, the kind of imprint we wish to leave, the tapestry of life we intend to weave, or the precise financial horizons we aim to conquer, we scatter our energies like seeds cast to the capricious wind, hoping for a sporadic bloom rather than cultivating a bounteous harvest. This aimless pursuit of opportunity, or more perniciously, the passive acquiescence to whatever fate bestows, stands in stark opposition to the spirit of calculated risk-taking. It is, quite simply, drifting, and drifting rarely culminates in a destination worthy of the endeavor. A focused vision, conversely, functions as a potent sifter. It empowers us to declare no to the myriad distractions that threaten to derail our course, and yes to those opportunities that authentically resonate with our ultimate purpose. It sharpens our discernment, allowing us to distinguish between a fleeting diversion and a genuine stepping stone. This is where the formidable power of internal drive asserts its dominion. Drive is not merely a nebulous yearning for success. It is a deeply ingrained motivation, intrinsically tethered to a vivid and compelling panorama of the future. When you can perceive with absolute clarity what you are striving towards, not in abstract terms, but with an acute sense of its felt experience, its visual manifestation, and its ripple effect. That vision becomes an potent propellant. This is not the realm of idle wishing, it is a sophisticated form of mental rehearsal. By vividly imagining yourself attaining your objectives, you are, in essence, preconditioning your mind and spirit for that very reality. This visualization process fortifies your resolve and cultivates an unyielding resilience. Envision an athlete mentally rehearsing their triumphant performance before a crucial contest. They are not simply hoping for victory, they are internally experiencing the triumph, the exertion, and the ultimate outcome. This mental preparation renders the subsequent real-world effort more familiar and demonstrably achievable. When the inevitable adversities arise, and they will arise when you dare to step beyond the confines of your comfort zone, this internalized vision becomes your steadfast anchor. It is the quiet whisper that reminds you, remember why you embarked on this journey, when the path grows arduous. Lacking this, the first significant setback can feel like an irrevocable conclusion, prompting a retreat into the perceived sanctuary of the familiar, even if that sanctuary is ultimately characterized by stagnation. The calculated risks we deliberately embrace are rendered efficacious only when we possess a clearly defined destination. A vision provides that destination. It enables us to evaluate potential risks not solely by their immediate potential reward, but by their capacity to advance us toward our ultimate objective. Does this risk represent a stride toward my envisioned future, or is it a detour that will lead me further astray? This is the very essence of rendering risks calculated. The inherently abstract nature of a vision can sometimes feel ephemeral, like a dream just beyond our grasp. This is precisely why the practical, tangible act of translating that vision into concrete, written goals is so profoundly important. Committing your aspirations to paper compels a level of clarity that mere contemplation cannot achieve. It transmutes the nebulous "I want to be successful" into a series of actionable steps. For instance, if your vision is to establish a scalable enterprise that affords you financial liberation, your written goals might encompass: formulate a comprehensive business plan within 6 months, launch a minimum viable product within 1 year, achieve a specific revenue benchmark within 3 years, and delegate critical operational responsibilities by year 5. This process of articulation achieves far more than the mere compilation of a task list. It solidifies your commitment. When goals are committed to writing, they transform from ephemeral notions into tangible pledges. They serve as a perpetual reminder of your intentions and furnish a clear navigational chart for your actions. This written record also fosters a sense of accountability. You can meticulously track your progress, identify areas of exceptional performance, and pinpoint domains where you may be lagging. This is not an exercise in self-recrimination, it is about informed recalibration. Imagine endeavoring to construct a dwelling without architectural blueprints. You might possess a general concept of your desired outcome, but without detailed plans, the construction would inevitably descend into chaos, inefficiency, and likely result in something vastly divergent from your initial intent. Written goals are the blueprints for your professional and financial future. They distill your grand vision into a sequence of manageable, attainable steps, rendering the journey less formidable and the destination more within reach. Furthermore, a meticulously defined vision acts as a formidable bulwark against the insidious anesthetic injections of passive leisure and distraction. In our contemporary milieu, we are perpetually assailed by stimuli engineered to seize our attention and offer immediate, often superficial, gratification. The endless scroll of social media, the cornucopia of entertainment options, and the incessant hum of digital noise can readily lull us into a state of comfortable inertia. These are the anesthetics that numb us to the latent potential for growth, causing us to forget the ambitious dreams we once harbored. When you possess a lucid, compelling vision, these distractions lose their seductive power. You become less susceptible to the allure of fleeting pleasure, because you grasp that true fulfillment is a byproduct of purposeful action and advancement toward something meaningful. Consider an individual with an unwavering vision of becoming a celebrated chef. They might encounter an advertisement for a new video game or receive an invitation to an impromptu weekend excursion. While these pursuits might offer transient enjoyment, they do not align with the chef's ultimate aspiration. Their focused vision enables them to recognize these as diversions, not opportunities. They will likely opt to dedicate that time to honing their knife skills, experimenting with novel culinary creations, or immersing themselves in gastronomic literature. This is not to suggest that leisure is inherently detrimental. It is, in fact, indispensable for well-being. However, a robust vision empowers you to prioritize. It ensures that your downtime is genuinely restorative, allowing you to recharge for purposeful endeavors rather than devolving into a passive escape that depletes your time and energy without contributing to your long-term aspirations. The potency of a focused vision becomes strikingly apparent when we juxtapose two hypothetical individuals, Sarah and Mark. Sarah has been perpetually advised that job security is paramount. She occupies a stable, albeit uninspiring, administrative position. Her vision for the future is indistinct. Remain employed, settle financial obligations. When opportunities arise that necessitate acquiring new, potentially precarious skills or undertaking projects beyond her established comfort zone, she hesitates. The apprehension of making an error, of imperiling her perceived security, paralyzes her. She perceives these as threats, rather than as calculated risks that could usher in greater fulfillment and financial recompense. She drifts through her career, perpetually secure, perpetually predictable, but rarely experiencing genuine growth. The anesthetic of her routine comfort prevents her from seeking more. Mark, conversely, possesses a crystalline vision to establish a flourishing online consultancy dedicated to empowering small businesses. He is currently employed as a marketing assistant, a role that provides him with a dependable income and invaluable experience. He views his current position not as an ultimate destination, but as a strategic launchpad. His vision is remarkably vivid. He envisions himself working from any locale, dictating his own hours, and making a tangible impact on the businesses he serves. This vision fuels his inherent drive. He dedicates his evenings and weekends to refining his proficiencies, curating a portfolio, and cultivating connections with prospective clientele. He embraces calculated risks, such as offering his services at a reduced rate to early adopters to garner testimonials and hone his methodology. He acknowledges the inherent uncertainty. His enterprise may not achieve immediate traction, or he might encounter unforeseen obstacles. However, his lucid vision empowers him to evaluate these risks. Is this a potential setback, or is it a pedagogical opportunity that propels him closer to his objective? He meticulously chronicles his milestones. Develop website by month 3, secure first paying client by month 6, attain consistent monthly revenue by year 2. This unwavering focus prevents him from succumbing to the siren call of passive leisure when his time could be more productively invested in constructing his future. He is not merely taking chances. He is undertaking calculated risks, guided by the unyielding luminescence of his focused vision. In the absence of a clearly delineated vision, the risks we undertake can readily devolve into uncalculated gambles. We might impulsively accept a new job offer simply because it dangles a marginally superior salary, without pausing to ascertain its alignment with our long-term career aspirations or its potential for fostering growth. This is akin to setting sail without a charted destination. You may catch a vigorous wind, but you could find yourself cast adrift anywhere. Conversely, the dread of the unknown, amplified by a deficit of vision, can compel us to eschew any risk whatsoever. We cling to the illusion of absolute security, mistaking routine for progress. This passive comfort, while seemingly benign, is a subtle form of stagnation. It is the anesthetic that inhibits us from realizing our full potential. Calculated risk, therefore, is not solely an act of bravery, it is an embodiment of informed courage, and that courage is intrinsically forged from a profound understanding of our intended destination. The psychological underpinnings at play are remarkably profound. When we visualize success, our brains initiate the formation of neural pathways that mirror that envisioned experience. This renders the actual pursuit more intuitive and less daunting. It is a form of cognitive priming. When coupled with the deliberate act of writing down goals, which engages distinct cerebral regions and solidifies intent, this mental preparation culminates in the creation of a formidable internal engine. This engine, this drive, is the very force that empowers us to persevere when the path becomes arduous. It is the critical differentiator between an individual who capitulates after the initial obstacle and one who perceives that obstacle as a transient impediment on the trajectory toward a cherished objective. The vision provides the why, the written goals furnish the how, and the drive bestows the unwavering will to persist forward. Ultimately, the profound efficacy of a focused vision resides in its capacity to transmute abstract aspirations into a tangible, actionable blueprint. It constitutes the bedrock upon which all effective calculated risk-taking is constructed. Without it, we are merely reacting to the ebb and flow of circumstances, passively hoping for favorable outcomes. With it, we are actively sculpting our destiny, making deliberate choices that propel us toward our desired results. It is the fundamental distinction between being a mere passenger on life's journey and assuming the mantle of captain of your own vessel, charting a course toward a horizon you have unequivocally defined. With a clear vision now firmly established, the subsequent, indispensable step is not to merely indulge in reverie, but to strategically harness the resources at your disposal. This necessitates a keen understanding of how to actively leverage the perceived constraints of your current employment, transforming it from a confining enclosure into a dynamic launchpad for the ambitious future you have so vividly envisioned. 5. Setting and achieving written goals. Without a clear map, even the most promising journey can lead to nowhere. This is especially true when we speak of calculated risks. The very term suggests intention, forethought, and a destination. But how do we truly define that destination? How do we ensure our risks are indeed calculated, and not simply leaps of faith into the unknown? The answer lies in the humble, yet profoundly powerful, act of setting written goals. Consider your career, your financial future, your personal growth, all of it as a vast, uncharted territory. You might possess a general sense of wanting to reach a place of greater freedom, fulfillment, or prosperity. But without a compass and a map, you are likely to wander. Written goals are that compass and map. They are the essential tools that transform abstract ambition into a tangible target, the guiding stars that illuminate the path for your calculated risks. When we discuss calculated risk-taking, we are not speaking of flipping a coin or hoping for the best. We are speaking of making deliberate choices where the potential rewards are significant, but the potential downsides have been carefully considered and managed. This requires analysis. It requires planning, and it absolutely requires knowing where you are going. If you do not have a written goal, how can you possibly know if a particular risk is aligned with what you truly want to achieve? How can you assess the potential rewards or the manageable downsides if the desired outcome is fuzzy and undefined? Attempting to take risks without clear, written goals is akin to trying to navigate a stormy sea without a destination. You might move, you might even feel busy, but you are unlikely to arrive anywhere meaningful. You might end up merely drifting, or worse, being dashed against the rocks of unintended consequences. This is the peril of unguided risk. It is not calculated, it is simply chaotic. Written goals provide that crucial clarity. They act as a filter, helping you discern between genuine opportunities for growth, the calculated risks that align with your vision, and mere distractions or unnecessary gambles. Consider the common advice to set SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This framework is not merely for school projects. It is fundamental for building a life of purpose and progress. Let us break this down for your career and personal growth. A goal such as "I want to be more successful" is vague. It is an aspiration, not a plan. But I want to transition into a senior project management role within the next 2 years by acquiring 2 relevant industry certifications and leading at least 1 cross-departmental initiative is specific. It tells you precisely what you need to do. It is measurable, you can track your certifications and the initiatives you lead. It is achievable, assuming you possess the foundational skills and resources. It is relevant to your desire for career advancement. And it is time-bound, giving you a deadline to work towards. This level of detail is what allows you to identify the calculated risks you need to take. Do you need to undertake a challenging project that stretches your abilities? That is a calculated risk. Do you need to invest time and money in those certifications? That is a calculated risk. Do you need to network with key individuals in leadership? Another calculated risk. Without the written goal, these opportunities might pass you by, or you might fail to recognize them as valuable steps. Beyond simple aspiration, there are profound psychological and practical mechanisms through which the act of writing down and regularly reviewing goals enhances your ability to pursue and achieve significant, calculated risks. The first is commitment. When you write something down, you are externalizing your intentions. You are giving them form and substance. This act creates a psychological anchor. It is no longer just a fleeting thought in your mind. It is a commitment you have made to yourself. On paper, this is far more potent than simply thinking, I should really do X someday. Consider it. How many times have you had a brilliant idea, a sudden burst of motivation to change something, only to have it fade away a few days later? This is the nature of unwritten aspirations. They are like mist, present, but easily dispersed by the slightest breeze of comfort, distraction, or doubt. Written goals, however, are like stones. They are solid, enduring, and they demand your attention. This written record serves as a constant reminder of your intentions, reinforcing your discipline and combating the natural human tendency to drift or be swayed by the allure of immediate comfort. There is also a powerful psychological principle at play here, often referred to as the Zeigarnik effect. This effect suggests that people tend to remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones. When you write down a goal, you have essentially created an unfinished task in your mind. Your brain will naturally keep it on its radar, nudging you to return to it and complete it. This constant, gentle pressure is invaluable when you are pursuing something that involves risk and uncertainty, because it helps you stay focused and persistent even when motivation wanes. The written goal becomes a persistent whisper in the back of your mind, a gentle but firm reminder of what you set out to achieve. Furthermore, the act of writing down goals makes them feel more real and therefore more achievable. It is a tangible declaration of intent. This is why many successful individuals keep vision boards, journals, or simply lists of their objectives. They are harnessing the power of externalizing their ambitions. They are creating a visible representation of their desired future, which makes that future feel less like a distant dream and more like a destination within reach. Now, let us consider the sheer magnitude of some calculated risks. Launching a new business, changing careers entirely, or making a significant investment, these can feel overwhelming. The prospect of failure can be paralyzing. This is where written goals become not just a compass, but also a deconstruction tool. They allow you to break down large, intimidating risks into smaller, more manageable milestones. Imagine your ultimate goal is to build a successful online business selling handmade crafts. This is a significant, potentially risky endeavor. If you simply start an online craft business, it remains a mountain to climb. But if you break it down, it becomes a series of achievable steps. Your long-term goal might be generate $5,000 in monthly revenue from my online craft store within 3 years. To arrive there, you will need medium-term goals, such as launch my Etsy shop within 6 months or develop a consistent social media marketing strategy within 1 year. And then, you will have short-term goals. Research 10 potential product niches this week. Photograph 5 of my best items by the end of the month, or complete an online course on product photography next quarter. Each of these smaller goals represents a mini victory. Each milestone you achieve builds momentum. It proves to yourself that you are capable of taking action and seeing results. This incremental progress is crucial for maintaining motivation and confidence, especially when you are stepping outside your comfort zone. It makes the larger, riskier objective feel less like a single, terrifying leap and more like a series of well-planned steps, each one bringing you closer to your destination. This structured approach is the very essence of calculated risk-taking, breaking down the uncertainty into manageable parts and building confidence through consistent, measurable progress. One of the most practical applications of written goals, particularly in the context of calculated risk-taking, is how they allow you to strategically leverage your current employment. Many individuals feel trapped in their jobs, viewing them as a source of necessary income, but also a barrier to pursuing their true ambitions. However, your current job can serve as a powerful launchpad if you approach it with a clear set of written goals. Instead of passively enduring your job, you can set goals that directly contribute to your larger, riskier aspirations. For example, if your long-term goal is to become a freelance web developer and you currently work in an administrative role, you might set a goal within your current position to volunteer to help with the company's internal website updates, or seek out opportunities to learn basic HTML and CSS through online courses that the company might reimburse. These are calculated risks within your current role. You are taking on new responsibilities, acquiring new skills, and building a portfolio, all while maintaining your current income. This approach significantly reduces the perceived risk of making a full transition later. By the time you decide to leave your administrative job to freelance, you will have practical experience, a portfolio of work, and perhaps even contacts made within your current company who might become your first clients. You are not stepping into the unknown empty-handed. You are stepping into a new chapter armed with skills and experience gained strategically. Your current employment becomes a training ground, a source of funding, and a networking hub, all managed through the lens of your written goals. This transforms the idea of quitting your job from a terrifying leap of faith into a carefully orchestrated transition. The fundamental question, then, is how do clearly defined written goals act as a necessary precursor to effective calculated risk-taking? And what are the specific dangers of attempting to take risks without them? The answer is simple. Without written goals, the risk is undefined and therefore it cannot be calculated. You have no benchmark against which to measure potential rewards or potential downsides. You do not know what you are aiming for, so any risk you take is essentially a shot in the dark. The danger is that you might undertake risks that lead you further away from your true desires, or that you might avoid risks that are precisely what you need for growth because you cannot see how they fit into a larger plan. You might also fall prey to recklessness, mistaking a random gamble for a strategic move. The illusion of job security often stems from a fear of these undefined risks. By defining them through written goals, you demystify them and bring them under control. Beyond this, we must ask, what are the psychological and practical mechanisms through which the act of writing down and regularly reviewing goals enhances an individual's ability to pursue and achieve significant, calculated risks? It is the power of externalization, creating a tangible commitment that combats mental drift. It is the activation of psychological principles like the Zeigarnik effect, keeping your objectives alive in your subconscious. It is the creation of a feedback loop where small successes build confidence and reinforce the belief in your ability to manage uncertainty. It is the capacity to break down overwhelming challenges into actionable steps, making the seemingly impossible possible. And crucially, it is the framework that allows you to leverage your current circumstances, transforming potential limitations into stepping stones. Once our calculated risks are clearly defined and our journey is mapped out through written goals, the next crucial step is to cultivate the unwavering discipline and focus required to navigate the inevitable challenges. This involves mastering the art of intentional action, ensuring that our efforts are consistently directed towards our defined objectives, rather than being sidetracked by distractions or the allure of immediate comfort. Conclusion: you have arrived at the culmination of this exploration, and I extend my sincerest gratitude for dedicating your invaluable time to these concepts. We have delved into the comforting, yet ultimately ephemeral, mirage of absolute job security. We have witnessed how its tenacious embrace can feel akin to sheltering behind a rock, offering momentary respite, but leaving one exposed to the relentless ebb and flow of the world. The profound truth we have unearthed is that genuine advancement, both personal and financial, is not forged in the crucible of risk avoidance, but rather in the astute comprehension and courageous embrace of it. It is about leveraging your present assets, your current employment, your accumulated skills, your finite time as a potent springboard toward greater horizons. It is about articulating unambiguous objectives and cultivating the unwavering resolve to pursue them, rather than succumbing to the caprice of fleeting moods or the phantom allure of effortless comfort. This book has served as your compass, an earnest invitation to venture beyond the confines of the familiar and into a future imbued with your own agency. The very essence of this profound metamorphosis resides within what we have termed calculated risk-taking. This is not an endorsement of recklessness, nor a call to leap without foresight. Quite the contrary. Calculated risk-taking is the embodiment of sagacity, preparation, and deliberate intent. It stands in stark opposition to a blind plunge into the uncharted. Instead, it necessitates a meticulous examination of a challenge or a choice, a thoughtful consideration of the spectrum of potential outcomes, both auspicious and adverse, culminating in a decision where the prospective rewards demonstrably outweigh the meticulously weighed downsides. Envision it as the construction of a bridge. One does not haphazardly cast logs across a chasm. Rather, one meticulously analyzes the span, rigorously tests the integrity of the materials, and artfully designs the structure. This caliber of risk-taking is the very engine of forward momentum. It is fundamentally distinct from the passive repose that so many mistakenly equate with security. True security, in the intricate tapestry of our contemporary world, is an edifice painstakingly constructed, not a treasure fortuitously discovered. A potent methodology for cultivating calculated risk-taking lies in the practice of testing the waters while firmly anchored in a position of stability. This entails the exploration of novel ideas or the acquisition of new proficiencies as a supplementary pursuit, without immediately imperiling your entire livelihood. Conceive of an idea for a blog that holds the potential for future remuneration, or perhaps a nascent online enterprise. Instead of precipitously severing ties with your established employment to dedicate yourself to it full-time, you possess the capacity to commence on a modest scale. You can allocate a select number of hours each week to the cultivation of your blog or the diligent research of products for your nascent shop. This, in essence, is calculated risk in its most pragmatic manifestation. You are assiduously minimizing the potential for catastrophic failure as your primary source of income remains secure, while simultaneously unfurling the sails to a significant horizon of potential prosperity should your ancillary venture gain traction. Your current occupation can, in fact, metamorphose into your most formidable ally throughout this transformative process. It furnishes the essential financial sustenance, provides the temporal expanse beyond the confines of your professional duties for learning and development, and even offers invaluable experiential insights and professional connections that can serve as catalysts for your future aspirations. This brings us to a pivotal juncture. Discipline wields an influence far exceeding that of mere mood. Our emotional states are notoriously unreliable navigators. One day, we may feel an electrifying surge of inspiration, poised to conquer the world. The ensuing day, we might find ourselves languishing under the weight of fatigue and a palpable lack of motivation. Calculated risk-taking, however, demands a sustained commitment, a steady hand, and the unyielding capacity to persevere even when the wellspring of inspiration begins to recede. Discipline is the inexorable engine that propels you toward your objectives, particularly when the path is fraught with inherent uncertainty. It is the bedrock upon which you complete those arduous yet indispensable tasks that pave the way for genuine progress and empower you to embrace those pivotal calculated risks. Conversely, attempting to juggle an excessive number of concurrent endeavors can dissipate your energy and preclude you from achieving true mastery in any single domain. The judicious concentration of your efforts upon one or two scalable avenues initially represents a far more judicious and calculated strategy for the construction of a robust and enduring future. To truly navigate this intricate path, you require a vision that is both crystalline and the indomitable drive to transmute it into tangible reality. Absent a vivid mental tableau of your desired destination, it becomes exceedingly facile to find oneself ensnared in inertia, or adrift without purpose. Your vision serves as the potent fuel for your drive. Calculated risks are undertaken with a specific, well-defined objective in mind to propel you inexorably closer to that envisioned future. To imbue this vision with concrete form, commit your aspirations to writing. Establish unambiguous goals that encompass the immediate, the intermediate, and the long-term horizons. These objectives function as your navigational chart, providing essential direction and enabling you to meticulously monitor your trajectory. They empower you to discerningly select which calculated risks are genuinely worth pursuing, ensuring their alignment with the ultimate realization of your deepest desires. Furthermore, direct your focus toward the cultivation of a career or enterprise possessed of inherent scalability. This implies the creation of something that can expand organically and engage a broader audience without necessitating your direct involvement. In every granular operation, contemplate avenues such as digital products, immersive online courses, or businesses amenable to automation. These represent scalable pathways capable of exponentially amplifying the returns on your calculated risks, standing in contrast to conventional employment models that frequently offer only linear progression, a step-by-step advancement with inherently constrained potential for expansion. The most paramount imperative at this juncture is to initiate. The most effective antidote to the pervasive fear of uncertainty is decisive action. Identify a single, modest, calculated risk that you can courageously undertake this very week. It need not represent a monumental leap. It might entail reaching out to a new professional contact, dedicating an hour to the acquisition of a novel skill, or commencing the foundational planning for that long-contemplated side project. Perceive these initial forays not as immutable guarantees of immediate triumph, but rather as invaluable opportunities for learning, adaptation, and the refinement of your evolving approach. The future is not a preordained realm of guaranteed security. It is a dynamic landscape that we actively and deliberately shape. It is sculpted through the judicious exercise of our choices, the bold execution of our actions, and the unwavering dedication to our own perpetual growth. This, in its truest sense, is the profound meaning of moving beyond job security. It is not an invitation to recklessness, but rather a mandate for intelligent self-determination over one's own destiny. It is about strategic advancement, the pursuit of a life richly imbued with purpose and accomplishment, propelled by the formidable power of calculated risks and the unyielding fortitude of your own disciplined will. Proceed now and construct your future.